And what really bothers me is that from Batman Begins to Dark Knight, whether or not he did, you got the feeling that Christopher Nolan was sort of taking notes at what didn't work in Batman Begins. Like, the action scenes got so much better in Dark Knight. The villain got much more focus in The Dark Knight. You know, a lot of the problems, even though I like Batman Begins, a lot of the problems with Batman Begins were fixed in Dark Knight, with the exception of a few. And then you get to Dark Knight Rises, and it's like, he didn't... Maybe because everyone did praise it so much, but there were still problems with The Dark Knight. And one of them is that goddamn voice, and I swear to God, he's doing it on purpose now. He's making it sillier.
They toned back the voice, and it is not as loud or extreme in this movie. Never mind the fact that you don't hear it that often.
Alright, so that was really distracting. In Prometheus, that's weird me going to Prometheus.
Hey! Something else that doesn't matter. Do you do this often when unscripted? Learn to train yourself to stay on subject, please. Skip!
You know, but there are so many damn things in this movie where I'm like, what? Huh? What? For example, when they capture Catwoman, they put her in the male prison center. What? And I'm sure they give a bullshit reason, but you know everyone's saying the same thing. That's a bullshit reason.
Makes sense to me when you know the character of the Catwoman. They explain that the women's facility is a lower security prison, which is also a fact in real life when you look at women's prison facilities. So they were hoping that placing her in there, she would not be able to escape yet again.
They put Bruce Wayne in this prison for a bit. And he has to find out a way out, which, by the way he finds the way out is extremely underwhelming. And it's supposed to be like the big build-up of the movie. The title of the movie comes from this, and it's like one sentence, and it's not that big a development. Or at least you don't see him go through a big development. You know, he just tries something, oh, that worked.
You really think he goes through with no development whatsoever? He spends 3 movies completely oblivious to the danger he is always in, never admitting to his own fears and regrets. This is the moment where he comes to fully realize everything he has been denying and who he truly is. And yet you think there is no development at this moment? People really think you understand movies as well? You gotta be kidding me.
He gets out. Apparently this is in, like, India or something like that. Makes his way back to Gotham, like, just on the street, you don't know how. And you got... Nobody can get on this goddamn island now, because they closed off all the bridges. There's army and military. He gets on in, like, 2 seconds. He flies from India, gets back to this island that has military all over the place and terrorists all over the place, and he gets back fine. I mean, he's just, like, in the corner, like, he sees Selena Kyle. Hey, what's up? I mean, it's...
Well, I can explain that pretty freaking easily. He's the goddamn Batman, and you never question the Batman. Don't you know that? In all actuality, suspension of disbelief. I noticed that plot inconsistency as well, but I let it slide due to the rest of the movie.
There's a lot of that. There's a lot of these things that distractingly don't add up. And for films that try so hard to show how all this technical stuff happens. Like, okay, for example, the opening, which I'm sure a lot of you have seen, where Bane escapes with the plane. Now that's mostly BS, but we can buy it because it's...
And the special forces would tend to disagree with you on that.
Things that they're doing that you just think logically this would make sense, or they would try this or do this, and they don't, or they don't explain it. And it's so weird because of that. But, what else? I mean, those are sort of the major things. Oh, okay, at the end, there's a relatively good twist at the end. I mean, it's one of those nice ones where it was in plain sight the whole time. You just go, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't see that coming, okay. But, again, when you see what it's adding up to, and you sort of see, oh, this is our villain, you know, this is the villain, you just go, really? Batman? Batman, okay, Batman movie. This is your villain. This is what it's all coming down to. You have created some of the world's greatest villains. I mean, unbelievable. These characters write themselves, they're so unbelievable. I mean, people have prayed to write for Batman because they want to write for these villains, they're that good. And you have it boiled down to this person, who clearly you don't give a shit about. I mean, at all. So that's a problem. The ending, I can't believe this is how they're finishing this movie. Again, I won't give it away, but the ending to this movie is not how a Batman film would end. It's more like how Shrek doing a Batman film would end. Like, oh, isn't that kind of cute? Oh, isn't that kind of uplifting? Oh, isn't that... Oh. No, 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 no. This...
Sorry guys, here comes a little bit of a spoiler. So are you saying that there has never been a time in Batman's history where Talia al Ghul decides to reveal herself after making kissy faces with Bruce just to fuck him over in the long run? I thought you were a fan of the Batman animated series because that is exactly how she was introduced there. That is how Talia always shows up. It fits because it is Talia al Ghul, and this is a Batman movie.
From the point where Bruce Wayne gets thrown in this prison on, it doesn't feel like Batman at all. I'm not sure what it feels like. I don't know if it's trying to do an Avengers thing where they're just flying around the city and they're trying to make it huge. Which I feel bad saying because it looks like a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot ever went into this, and a lot of the stuff is really there, and a lot of the big crowds, and a lot of the fighting, and it's very impressive, but you just don't give a shit. You don't give a shit about what happens to the city, or Batman, or what the bad guy's plan is, and you're just constantly asking, why should I care about this?
Because they have created likable and relatable characters that you want to see come out alive. Sorry, that is just how I felt. I'm not arrogant enough to consistently tell you what you should think. Everything I have said so far is my own interpretation of the movie based on my own experiences. Seriously, don't say that I won't care, Doug, about what happens in this movie. You have no idea what anyone other than yourself is thinking.
You know, at least with the second film, they're going to sort of this anarchy, and you don't want the Joker to win because you want to believe in the best of mankind. But you know where the Joker's coming from, and you can sort of understand it. Even though you don't agree with it, or maybe you do even, you don't want to be on his side. But it's very challenging not to because you are sort of agreeing with some of what he's saying. So that's great. And even the weird plan in the first Batman, in Batman Begins, it kind of makes sense. Like, you don't agree with it, but you're like, well, okay, I guess that analogy can almost work. In here, it just doesn't add up. It just seems like stubborn dicks that somehow got this really big budget and all these henchmen and stuff, and yet they still don't put guards at the prison.
So, Raish saying he wanted to destroy the city without explaining why it is corrupt in the first place makes more sense than the man wanting to prove to the world that a city that is built on a lie cannot stand once the truths are revealed. Hence, a government should run itself transparently, and that those running the offices should trust in their people more than they do, and that the people themselves should put them in more power than their own government. Let's not even compare that to how the Joker just does things because he gets bored sometimes.
So, and yeah, like I said, another big issue with it is that you don't really feel the hero's journey on this. You don't feel what he has to go through to, you know, achieve this greatness, and that chant, that dishy, pasta, whatever it's called, you know, is played throughout the whole thing. It means rise, rise, rise. So they're really building up this thing where the Dark Knight rises. He you know, comes back again, stuff like that. First of all, he comes back pretty quickly. You know, they're making it like, you know, he's gone for, you know, like halfway through the movie he comes back and everyone's gonna cheer. He comes back pretty fast. I mean, nothing really snap. You know, it's like, oh, I guess I should probably put the bad suit back on. Yeah, you know, I'll do it. Come on, let's go. So, I mean, even that's sort of underwhelming.
You felt that there was no journey? Batman and Bruce have been on a journey since the first movie. The first movie, Batman Begins, was the birth and coming of age to the realization of what he must be to save the city, as shown in Dark Knight, then being dragged further into the dirt than he has ever been, back to rising again to where he should have been the whole time had his depression and emotions not gotten in the way. Nope, no journeys here whatsoever. He put the suit back on because there was a threat to the city that he felt needed the Batman to stop it. If Bruce had felt the police could have stopped it, then he wouldn't have worried about it. There was more than him just getting bored one day and deciding to put the suit back on because, well, fuck it, he can.
What else? There's so many. I mean, this is one of those things where I could just go through the movie and just do, like, bullet points. Like, what I don't like about it and what doesn't work for me. So I guess maybe I'm a little harsh just, you know, saying like, oh, it sucks. I don't think it sucks. I mean, because there's some good stuff in it.
then why did you just explicitly state at the beginning of this video that it sucks?
I thought this actually kind of sucked.
Doug, skip to scripts next time. You sound less like an idiot when you use one.
I really need to address. And this sort of goes along with the ending too. Okay, so you have this this woman who's gonna sort of finance her. It's gonna take over Wayne Enterprises and stuff like that. And whatever, she's sort of against Wayne because he becomes a recluse. He's not keeping track of his money. Which again, you sort of go, yeah, what a dick. Yeah, he's throwing money and stuff, but he's not keeping track of me. He's like, oh, leave me alone, leave me alone. But okay, he gets his act together and he tells her about this machine that I guess he sort of invented in his spare time, or there's probably a story to it. But it was just explained so fast. But can also be used as a weapon, of course, that's why he wants to keep it secret. So he sort of shows her this, and, they're trying to get the company back together and stuff like that, and then all of a sudden they're fucking. It's, what the hell happened? There was no chemistry at all!
Once he finally comes out of his oppression, they start showing a huge sexual tension and a meeting of thoughts between these two from that moment forward. So they were building to this event in the movie the entire time. So we're now skipping forward yet again.
I think the only other thing I'll talk about before I say who probably like it, who wouldn't, is it really is, sadly, sort of an example of when there's too much story and not enough character. Some are good. Catwoman's a good character, Bane's a good character, but like the first half hour of this movie is just exposition. Well, what happened here? Well, this and this and that and that. Well, who's that? Well, that's him and her and blah, blah, blah. Well, where's this going? Well, that's going to here and there and blah, blah, blah. I mean, and a lot of it's really forced. I mean, just like, just shoving this shit in your face and just talk. We're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. That person, that's this person, what's this thing? Well, this is that. And it does not flow. You're constantly where you're hearing exposition. And they're not introducing much character, again, with the exception of Bane and Catwoman.
Would you happen to prefer them to make a text segue and description to what happened over 8 years? In all honesty, and in my humble opinion, they handled the opening to the movie in a way that flowed and can get the audience back into the story and up to speed in a painless and unconfusing way. And now we're going to skip past this part as well because he just continues talking about this.
And that sort of follows it through. And like I said, when you get to the hero's quote-unquote journey in the middle, in the prison, you don't feel like he's going through hell. You don't feel like...
He is laying on a cot in a prison with a broken back watching Gotham, the city he loves and has sworn to protect, burn. He has lost the woman he loves and the man who has taken care of him in his entire life that he trusts with everything has abandoned him. He has lost all of his money and his status. He has lost literally everything. And you call that not being a living hell? What the fuck do you call hell then?
He's really, that he's risen. He is, he's rise, as they keep chanting. By the way, they chant this thing about 1 million times a day, only on like, whatever, day 10, does he ask, what does that mean? Really? You never...
He was a man more focused on how to get out of there than what they were chanting. You are very much nitpicking at this point.
So it really is one of those films where, in the Batman films, actually a lot of Christopher Nolan films have always sort of had that problem. That there's much more story than there is character. There's usually enough character. You usually get like one really, really strong character. The Joker was that really, really strong character, in Dark Knight. Or actually, of all Batman was actually for a while a really, really strong character in Batman Begins. So it usually sort of carries it through okay. But in this one, it's just overload. And you're just tired of it, and you don't know why you're supposed to be rooting for this, or what the big journey is, or any of that. So that's pretty much, those are my issues with the movie. And there are some good stuff, there are some good effects. And I do like Catwoman, I do like Bane, but everything else, I just couldn't get into it all. So it's like, okay. Who would like this film? My guess is that people, this is gonna sound weird, people who like Prometheus would probably like a film like this. Someone that wants something really basic.
Didn't you just spend 5 minutes or more explaining how this movie had too much story and yet not enough development to it? And now you're going to say that The Dark Knight Rises is nothing more than a basic action movie, and those have absolutely no story or development whatsoever? Do you even listen to yourself?
Or just want some basic action. You might be a little bored by it at times because it is extremely long, but you can sort of follow, and you can follow it enough. Again, sort of almost near the third act, there's a lot of, well, how are we going to get the cops out? Well, we're going to do this. Well, how are we going to do this? We're going to do that. More of that exposition stuff that you're just, come on, God. And I think people who are getting themselves hyped up to see this, and just they want to see Catwoman, they want to see Bane, they want to see people punching people and explosions and stuff, and that's sort of all they need. They don't need too much else, because it's not like there's nothing to this movie. They give little drops of, something to kind of cling on to. For me, it's not enough, but if you only need a little, if you just want your basic action movie, it's not bad.
So you heard it here, people. To the nostalgia critic, aka Doug Walker, Dark Knight Rises is nothing more than the Expendables or any one of the Rambo movies. He also spends the rest of the video pretty much repeating how anyone who likes this is on the same mental level as a knuckle-dragging Neanderthal. Really, I wonder how people can think Doug Walker is so fantastic at analyzing movies when he missed the mark so hard with this one. All he ever really does in his reviews are make jokes in the first place. You see what happens when he actually tries to be analytical about something. The man who started Channel Awesome and that guy with the glasses.com, and who is now, in my opinion, one of the worst things on that site, has dropped even lower in my mind. I honestly thought that the movie was fantastic. It has its flaws, but no movie doesn't. But it was truly amazing. That is, once again, my opinion. I suggest every one of you go watch it for yourselves to see what you think. This is the Professor, and I bid you all a very fine adieu.